She was 3 years old. The ball came up past her knees. I was her coach. I can still see those little cleats. My daughter played soccer all through the years, the travel tournaments, the Saturday soccer games, the parents that we stood by year after year after year until they weren't strangers anymore, but friends cheering on our girls. They were our people. I'm going to take you to senior night under the lights, her last high school soccer game, looking around at 12 years of faces and realizing for the first time all those years, this was the last time. And in the middle of all that love and pride and celebration, one quiet thought cut right through it. I have no idea who I am without this. If you've ever had a version of that moment where something that you've held your whole life together was ending and you had no answer for what came next, this episode is for you. Today, the whole episode is about one thing: being on autopilot. What it is, how it happens to smart, loving, fully present women, and how you get off it. I lived this story. I'm going to tell you all of it. And by the end of this episode, you're going to understand yourself in a way you haven't in a long time. Welcome to Create Your Best Empty Nest, episode 15. Are you ready? Let's begin. Okay, you've been running on a track for 20 plus years, and the track just ended. You showed up for everyone: games, appointments, school events, family dinners. You were there. But somewhere in all the showing up, you stopped asking what you wanted. Not because you forgot, but because there was no room for it. Now the schedule has emptied out, and the question is sitting right there waiting. Who are you when you're not taking care of everyone else? And you don't know. You're a little ashamed that you don't know. If you're feeling a little hum of something is off that you can't quite name, not crisis, just hollow. If you're feeling like everyone else has handled this better, or at least pretends to. If you're wanting to feel like yourself again, except you're not sure who that is anymore. If you're wanting to be excited about the next chapter instead of vaguely afraid of it. If you're wanting a specific thing to do, not another Pinterest quote about new beginnings, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about what autopilot actually is and why it happens to the most devoted present mothers. The full story of how I woke up in autopilot, from those tiny cleats to the drive home after senior night. The 5 ways autopilot steals your identity without you ever noticing. Why waking up is not about blowing up your life. It's about telling yourself the truth and the one step that starts everything. Before we go into today's content, I want to say something. If you are in the thick of this right now, if your house is quiet, or you're on the verge of the empty nest and you're not sure what to do with it, I need you to hear this. The fact that you don't have it figured out does not mean something is wrong with you. It means you are right on time. I didn't have it figured out either. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened to me, and I think somewhere in my story you're going to find a piece of yours. Okay, point number 1, what autopilot actually is. Autopilot is not the same as being absent. That's the part nobody says. You can be completely, lovingly, beautifully present in your family and still be on autopilot. Autopilot means you're running on a track someone else helped build, doing things because they need to be done without ever stopping to ask if that's still the track you want to be on. It's not a failure. It's what happens when life gets full and good and busy and you just keep going. Being present is about showing up. Autopilot is about who's steering. So you've showed up every day. That part is not the problem. The problem is somewhere along the way, you handed the steering wheel to the schedule and stopped being the one deciding where you were going. It's like driving a familiar route. You can arrive at the destination with zero memory of the turns. Your hands knew the way. You were nowhere near the wheel. Why this matters is because autopilot works fine when the track keeps going. It breaks down when the track ends because you're there sitting without a direction and you realize you haven't been the one steering for years. That's not a personality flaw. That's what happens when you love people well. You're on the track for a long time, and the cure is not guilt, it's awareness. So here's a belief shift. I was checked out. I should have been paying more attention to myself rather than after the belief shift is I was fully present. I just wasn't steering. Now I am. That starts today. So here's your take home tip. Think of one decision you made in the last month that was driven by obligation or habit, not by what you actually wanted. Write it down. Just notice it. That notice is the beginning. Okay, number two, how it happened to me. Here's the full soccer story. Like I mentioned, my daughter was 3 years old. The ball came up past her knee. I was the coach. I remember thinking, this is the most chaotic, beautiful thing I've ever done. Little kids playing soccer, chasing a ball in a clump, no one remotely near their positions, and me trying to get them to understand which goal was actually ours. We went from that to early morning practices, orange slices, shin guards on backwards, 3-year-olds who were more interested in the grass than the ball. This is not just my daughter's activity. This says something I poured myself into. I loved soccer. I played high school soccer. I coached her. I drove her there. I showed up. And then something happened over those 12 years of playing. The parents that on the sidelines stopped being the strangers. They became my people. We traveled to tournaments together. We cheered each other's kids on for years. We knew each other's family stories. The sideline was a community. It was my community. This is the key. It wasn't just a role, it was a whole world. Relationships, purpose, belonging, weekly rhythm, a reason to be somewhere. All of it tied to soccer. I didn't notice how much of myself was wrapped up in it because it felt like love. And it was love. That's what makes it complicated. So, fast forward to her last soccer season. We are under the lights. It's senior night. I looked around at all those faces I've been standing next to for 12 years. All those kids I had cheered for since they were in elementary school, and I felt it. This was the last time. I felt proud, grateful, and underneath it, something else, a hollow feeling I didn't really expect. The other parents kept saying, what are you going to do when you're an empty nester? And I kept thinking about that question, but inside, I didn't have an answer, not even a partial one. I realized in that moment, I had no idea what was next. I had spent years knowing exactly where I needed to be, when I needed to be there, what I wanted next. And now the calendar was about to go quiet. And I had put nothing in it that felt like mine. So I remember the drive home. The car was quiet. My daughter was probably on her phone or half asleep. And I just sat with it. That feeling that I couldn't name yet, but I couldn't ignore. Something was ending. Something I didn't know how I was going to live without. I didn't fall apart. I but I had held everything else together. But the question was there, and it stayed there. Who are you now? What do you do with yourself? What do you want now? And I didn't have the answers yet, but the questions had officially arrived. What I didn't know that night is that asking the question is the whole thing. The drive home, the quiet car, the feeling I couldn't name, that was the beginning, not the end. Like I said, I didn't have a plan to that question. What are you going to do when you become an empty nester? But I kept following it. So this helped me to go through my own work, figuring out what I wanted to do when I became an empty nester. Who am I now? I did my own work. I went to the next chapter leadership series that helped me realize I wanted to be a life coach. Something that I've always wanted to do and loved is helping other women. I didn't start with a plan. I started with the question and I kept following it. So now I sit across from other women on calls, in coaching sessions, and I hear myself in their stories. And I get to say, I know where you are. I've been right there. And there is a way forward. Autopilot isn't something that happened to me because I wasn't paying attention. It happened because I was paying attention to everyone I loved. And the wake up was simply learning to pay that same attention to myself. So here's your belief shift. I wasted all those years not knowing who I was. Two, those years were not wasted. They were the setup. The question I asked on that drive home was the most important question I've ever asked. So here's your take home tip. Think of your own drive home moment, the moment you first felt the question. Write it down in one sentence. You don't have to answer it yet. Just name it. Okay, next point. The 5 ways autopilot steals your identity. Autopilot doesn't take everything at once. It takes it a little at a time in ways that feel like love. We're going to walk through each one, and I invite you to recognize yourself in them. No shame, just awareness. Number 1, that your schedule becomes your identity. You have your time filled with things that needed to happen, not things you chose. What do? Became, I run kids to all their things, and that was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. The rhythm of Tuesday practices and Saturday games and soccer became the rhythm of my whole week, my whole season, my whole sense of purpose. So number 2, your friendship become logistics. So the people that I was closest to were the people that I shared a carpool with, the sidelines with, the school committee with. The friendships are real, but the glue was the activity. When the activity ends, the friendships get quiet. Those sideline parents were my people. And after that last game, the group text slowed down. The Saturday mornings disappeared. I wasn't sure who to call. Number 3, you stopped asking what you wanted. Not because you didn't have wants, because there was no room for them. So you got so good at reading everyone else's needs that you lost your fluency of your own. So when was the last time someone asked what you wanted for dinner and you immediately, genuinely knew? Number 4, your kids' wins and your husband wins become your wins. This isn't a bad thing, that it's love, but it means a piece of your self-worth was tied to the outcomes you couldn't control. When your child leaves and stops needing to be cheered on in the same way, that source of meaning goes quiet. Number 5, you stopped imagining a future for yourself. You planned for them. You planned college visits, senior year bucket lists, graduations dinner, but you didn't plan for yourself. The future was always framed around their milestones, not your own. Now the calendar is open, and a blank page is terrifying when you haven't had a pen in years. Here's your belief shift. I gave myself away, and there's nothing left. 2, I gave myself away to something I loved, and every single piece of me is still there, ready to be reclaimed. Here's your take-home tip. Write down one of those 5 ways autopilot has stolen your identity, where you recognize yourself the most. Circle it. That's where you start. Okay, next point. Waking up is not blowing up your life. A lot of women hear wake up and think it means you have to burn everything down. A new career, a new look, reinvention with a capital R. That's not what this is. Waking up is much quieter than that. It's just telling yourself the truth. One honest answer at a time. It looks like sitting in a quiet house and not immediately reaching for your phone. It looks like answering, what do I want? Before answering, what does everyone else need? It looks like noticing when you're doing something out of habit on the track versus choosing it. It looks like getting curious about yourself the same way you've always been curious about your kids. Look back honestly, not to blame yourself, to see clearly, what was I doing on autopilot? Where did I go quiet? Now reclaim, go back and find what's still true about you. What did you love before the schedule took over? What did you put down because there was no room? She's still there. And reimagine, start asking new questions, not who was I before, but who am I becoming now that I get to choose? I didn't blow up my life after that drive home after the soccer game. I didn't quit everything and move somewhere. I got quiet. I got honest. I started asking myself the questions I had spent 20 years plus asking my kids. What do you love? What lights you up? What do you want your days to look like? And eventually, those questions led me here to this podcast, to life coaching, to coaching women who are standing exactly where you stand, where I stood under those lights. I didn't find myself, I built myself slowly, on purpose, one honest answer at a time. And I'm still figuring it out, one honest answer at a time. So here's your belief shift. Waking up means I have to figure out my whole life now. Actually, waking up means telling myself the truth today, just today. That's all it takes to start. So here's your take home tip. Answer this one question in writing. What is one thing I genuinely want that I have been putting last? Don't overthink it. First, honest answer wins. Okay, last point. The one step that gets you off autopilot for good. So you don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You need one honest conversation with someone who can help you see what you can't see alone, an outside perspective. You cannot read the label from inside the jar. We need someone outside of our own thinking to show us what's actually there. The women who move the fastest through this area aren't the ones who read the most books or listen to the most podcasts. They're the ones who get into an honest conversation fastest. When you're driving at night, you don't need to see the whole road. You just need to see as far as your headlights go. A coaching conversation is the headlight. It shows you the next 200 feet. That's all you need. I did my own version of this. I didn't figure out this coaching business by myself in a vacuum. I talked. I got honest. I got help seeing what I couldn't see alone. You don't need to have it all figured out before you show up for the call. It's not committing to anything. It's just having a conversation. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel willing. Those things are different. So here's your belief shift. I'll reach out when I have better sense of what I want. After the conversation is exactly how I get a better sense of what I want. That's the whole point. So here's your take-home tip. Do this today. Go to marianneiverson.com/call. That's Marianne with an I and an E on the end, .com/call. Also, I've been calling it backslash. Turns out it's front slash. You're welcome for my growth moment. And book their conversation today. Or you can go to the show notes right now and book the next chapter jumpstart call today while this is still on your mind. Autopilot isn't absence. It's what happens when love fills your life so completely that you forget to leave room for your own steering wheel. I know exactly what that feels like. I felt it on the soccer field under the lights and in a quiet car on the drive home, and for months after that. The 5 ways that stole your identity are not failures, they're information. And now you have it. Waking up is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's one honest question, answered truthfully for the first time in a long time. And you don't need to feel ready. You just need one conversation. That's the step. That little girl with the ball at her knees is in college now. The sideline is quiet. The Saturday mornings look different. And I am the most awake I have been in my life, not because the soccer was wrong, because asking the question was right. You don't have to wait for another senior night moment to start asking. You're already asking. The fact that you listened to this episode is proof of that. The question is already there. The only thing left is to stop running from it and start walking towards it. Here's what I want you to do right now. Not when things slow down, not after the next busy season, right now. I offer a free coaching call called the Next Chapter Jumpstart Call. You and me, one conversation, no agenda, except to help you see yourself clearly. We'll look at where you are, what you actually want, and what's standing between you and it. That's all. I take these calls seriously. I show up prepared And because of that, I keep the spots limited. So don't wait on this one. Book the next chapter jumpstart call at marianneiverson.com/call. That's Marianne with an I and an E on the end, .com/call. Go right now while this is still on your mind. You spent years on the sidelines cheering for someone else's dream. It's time to show up for yours. Are you ready? I'll see you next week. If this felt familiar, you're not alone. I created a short quiz, Who Am I, after the kids leave. It helps you name what actually is going on for you in this season and what you might need next. You'll find the link in the description. And if you want more conversations like this, you could subscribe. I'm here every week.